the end. So we aim, I think the presentation will last about 40 minutes or so, leaving us around 20 minutes for questions. So please feel free to use the chat box to ask any questions, and you'll have your moment at the end of today's session. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Mr. Andrew Craig.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Now, it's going to be fairly easy PPC tips going forward for the first 9, with a few sort of additions that Google are adding at the end of the slideshow. But if I can get into a bit more detail, you need to know any more detailed questions, like I say, please ask, and I'll answer where I can for you. So here we go. So 10 PPC tips and tricks. Starting off, we're going to go with negative keywords. So when you're building your campaign, the negative keyword is so useful. You really should be using them all the time. The last thing you want to do is be paying for dead-end clicks that people are looking for entirely different products, and they're not going to sort of want what you're offering. So this is where negative keywords can be your best friend. Helps you filter out all that irrelevant traffic. Quick example. So imagine, if you will, you're a used car salesman. This is Arthur Daly. Arthur is a used car salesman. He's as honest as the day is long. The longer the daylight, less he does wrong. He doesn't sell new cars. So by adding new as a negative keyword to all his cars campaigns, he'll show for most car sales. So if he's looking for car sales, that's what he's in there. It's a very generic term, but he's not going to show for new car sales. So that's the simplest form of negative keyword. Like I say, just stops you entering a lot of those really sort of very generic searches that you're not just interested in. Slightly more detailed is a thing we like to call an embedded negative. So this is where you negative out an exact match of a broad match keyword that you're bidding on. So for instance, this is a linen shirt. Now linen shirts, if you've got a small budget, will eat your budget entirely. So if we had linen shirt as a broad match and linen shirt as an exact negative match, it would not show for the search linen shirt, but it would show for blue linen shirt or sort of XL linen shirt, short sleeve linen shirt. So you go for that longer tail of keyword. So it's a bit of a twofold, this one. One, it stops you spending all your money on linen shirts where people are much further up the research funnel. They may not be in the purchasing mood. And you further, like I say, further down the research funnel, you're showing for blue linen shirt, which shows a bit more intention of purchase. It also allows you to generate search terms and new keywords. So if there was a lot of search for this blue linen shirt, we'd know, right, there's a lot of search for it. Let's create a new ad group purely on blue linen shirts. The ad says blue linen shirt. It lands on a blue linen shirt landing page, making the journey easier for the user to get where they want to go and where you want them to go. So that's negative keywords in their simplest form, really. And remember that the more negatives you add to a campaign, the more focused it becomes, and sort of the less work your user has to do. So the better your conversion rate should be at the end of the day. Okay, number 2, keyword ad and landing page. So one of the simplest mistakes people make when setting up a PPC campaign is directing all the ads to the homepage without any thought of where they're going to land people. The homepage isn't usually the best landing page unless it's been tailored to meet the needs of your perfect landing page, allowing the customer to see all of the information they need and take the sort of appropriate action. Very rarely happens on the homepage. So it can be very frustrating to click on an ad and then have to go through all the subsequent pages to get where they want to be, making it harder work for them to find the product. So this is a quick example that we ran for Harvey's Furniture. So we were targeting as a search term red leather sofas, and we landed them on a landing page that contains nothing but red leather sofas. Now, also in here, you'll see that there's some extensions where we also had red corner sofas, red recliner sofas, red 3-seat sofas, and each of those went to the relevant landing page. So as you see, we were making it as easy as possible to make the sort of customer land where we want them to land, and this helped us improve the conversion rates on sort of red leather sofas and corner sofas. I think roughly 96% over what we were doing previously. Now it sounds like a great number, I agree, but that was on a fairly low number of conversions, really. So it does make a difference on where you're landing people, and the closer you can land them to their sort of end goal, the happier they'll be and the less work they have to do. Look at Pierre. Isn't he lazy? As an extra bonus, what you also get is a good quality score. So the quality score is what Google sort of give you as an advertiser for your keyword, ad, and landing page relevance. The higher your quality score is, the less you have to pay to be higher up the landing, up the search results. So again, it saves you money. So paying attention to detail is worth it in both bonuses and conversion rates from Google. So next up, speaking of ad extensions, we have ad extensions. So it's a way of getting extra information in front of your customer. There's a few extensions we can make use of: site links, call outs, location extensions, price extensions, offer extensions. And the more you can add, the sort of more real estate your ad will take on the homepage, the sort of better you can land your users and the more information you're giving them. So here's a few examples of what ad extensions can look like. So in the top one is a childcare insurance ad from Fish, who are sort of specialist insurers. So childminders insurance, we're targeting people who are looking for childminders, looking to do an insurance policy. Now on this ad, which is the top one, we have a call extension, so the user can call and make an inquiry. We have some call out extensions, and we have some site links. Now the site links have to go to a different landing page than your ad. One can go to the same landing page, but the other three have to go to different landing pages. So what we're doing is we're taking sort of people who may be looking for the sort of the latest news to the news page and so on. And at the bottom ad is more of a localized ad, which I'll go into a bit more detail later. But this is for the boat inn at Catherine de Barnes. Now, in here, what you can see is we're being quite targeted. It's got a location extension, so we tell people exactly where it is. There's a phone number, and it's open today with some opening times, so people can call, book a table. And we have some price extensions that we took from the menu at the time, so people can see, again, what sort of costs are involved, and a little more information on sort of specials and things like that. So as you can see, you can add a lot more to an ad than just 3 headlines and 2 description lines. But not all ads are eligible to show extensions. So depending on, again, your quality score, a thing called ad rank, that Google may or may not show any extensions. And they do show a different combination of the extensions that you put up with an ad. And when they've found sort of the best combinations, they'll tend to show those extensions more often with your ads. So generic search terms don't tend to show ads as much as a branded search term, because basically the quality score is usually lower. But you can still see extensions. A lot of the time, you'll see extensions at the bottom of the search page with the ads that are showing there, as opposed to the ones at the top of the search page on a generic search term. Simply because I think it's Google trying to give sort of the lower ad rank position, sort of 5, 6, 7, a bit more information at the bottom of the page. So in number 4, we've got themed campaigns and ad groups. So except for Mr. Messy here, there's nothing messy than an ad group with hundreds of keywords in it. You don't know sort of what people are looking, what's triggering your ad. And it just makes for, again, a poorly managed campaign, poor quality scores, and it works against you. So optimizing your campaigns as thoroughly as possible can really help determine how successful they're going to be. And the key to optimization is it's just a good idea to keep a couple of keywords per ad group with relevant ads going to relevant pages, and keeping sort of that organization at all times. Because a similarly themed campaign ad group, you can monitor your costs, and it makes it sort of more effective in landing keywords and ad copy. And it's particularly useful when it comes to assigning our old friends the negatives. So you can have negative keywords at a campaign or an ad group level. So if you wanted sort of, again, going back to Arthur Daly, new is something that he doesn't want to do. So he has that at a campaign level as a negative, but then he's got an ad group for red cars, blue cars, green cars, and then the sort of manufacturers. And you can add negative keywords at those levels just to make sure that those are showing, again, at as tightly as possible, saving in budget, lowering the bids, and being sort of making sure people land where you want them to land and make it as easy as possible. And number 5 is something that we call peel and stick. Now, this is something that I learned when I was starting PPC. So you've created your campaign, you've got your ad groups with 2 or 3 keywords per ad group, relevant ad copy going to relevant pages. But what if one of your keywords is just a bit of a hero and it does a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the traffic, but it's being strangled by all the sort of poorer performing keywords? What we do is we give it its own campaign and budget. So we take that ad group, we put it into a separate campaign with its own budget to make sure that it's getting the maximum exposure as it can get, because it's generating the most conversions, it's generating the most sort of return on your investment. And it then still leaves all of the other keywords to spend your original budget or original part of the budget or a smaller part of the budget. And then again, another one may rise to the surface that you can pull out and give a separate budget and a separate campaign. And this way, you're always making sure that your sort of campaigns are as efficient as possible and doing the best return for you. Alternatively, what if one of them is just really performing badly, but it's still spending all the money, nobody converts on it though? So again, take it out, give it its own campaign with a smaller budget. I mean, you can simply just pause it, but it's still generating traffic. It still can generate ROI, and it may just be that what it needs is, like I say, its own budget to sort of generate assisted conversions, and like I say, getting people to your site. So by giving it its own campaign and budget, you're stopping it spending and stifling all your other keywords. So now the hero keyword might rise to the top, and you can then separate that out. Or you may find another villain keyword, which you can take out, put in the campaign with this one, give it its own campaign and small budget, and again, allowing the other keywords chance to flourish. So it's really useful. It's a great way of making sure your campaigns are efficient. This also works at a device level. So if I mean, as we're going forward now, mobile is becoming more and more popular. And there's a lot more searches done on mobile than on desktop. So one of the things that I found is that although there's more traffic on mobile, it tends to convert sort of less well than a desktop. But by pulling mobile out and putting it into a separate campaign from a desktop, so the two campaigns are exactly the same keywords, same ads, same landing pages. It's just they have separate budgets, one for mobile only, one for desktop only. And it again allows you to give you another lever of where to put your budget and behind the best performing sort of device. So again, that's worth considering at a peel and stick level. So next up, location targeting. This can be very powerful. Again, if you're a sort of a local tradesman, or you only want to sell, you've got a local store, you don't do UK deliveries, whatever, you may only have sort of a 15-mile radius. You want your people to see your ads. This is what's for you. Like I say, you can just set sort of a 50-mile radius around your business or around your target location and bid purely on people in that area. So it can get quite complicating. This is one of our biggest location targeting based campaigns. It was a pub chain, and there were 139 pubs in the chain. So as you can see, they were sort of all over the country, but they all wanted to show for pubs, pub lunch, pub food. So what we did is we created 139 campaigns with 5 to 8 mile radii around them, depending on sort of location, so what was around it, if it was rural or in a city. Because if it's in a city, you don't need an 8 mile radius, because A, you're going to spend all the budget really quickly, and B, people might not travel that far in a city. But with a rural one, it's more of a destination, so you want a bigger radius. And we had to and they all bid on pub and pubs. But what that allowed us to do is, going back to the Catherine de Barnes, is show a very, very localized ad. So anyone within a sort of 8 mile radius or a 5 mile radius of this pub was looking for pubs, pub food. We showed them a boat-in ad. New menu, perfect mix of seasonal new dishes, pub classics to enjoy. And then we had some call-outs. There were country pub restaurants. You could have spring drinks in the sun. In the winter, we'd change the ad copy for meals by the fireside and make it a lot more sort of warmer and indoorsy. We serve your table today, and then we had, like I say, scrumptious salads, succulent steaks, an address, a phone number, opening times, and some menu examples. Very powerful. And the idea of this campaign was to generate table bookings, and we were doing that at around £2.50, £2.70 a booking, and it was really, really efficient for the pub chain. So number 7, split testing. So you've got a fantastic ad, it does great, and it works for your customers. Can you do better? So this is what we do. Split testing. So you conduct an A/B split test. This is the simplest form. Again, 2 different ads. So you've got your banker ad, you make a competitor ad, and you show them evenly. Find out which one does best. And if it's your banker ad, you write another competitor. If it's the competitor, you replace your banker ad and you write a new competitor ad that, again, try and beat your original ad. You're always testing, and you're always trying to make it better. This is again fundamental, really. It's something you should be doing all the time. And that's in its easiest form. In the next form, slightly more subtle approach maybe. So you could do 4 separate ads that have very, very similar contents, but with slight changes, such as one headline change or a different call to action in each ad, or one of the description lines is different. So what you're trying to do is find the best combination for your customer. And once again, you found the best one, banker, and write 3 new competitors. This is again something we do all the time for all our customers, just trying to improve what their campaigns do, increase click-through rates, increase quality scores, and conversion at the far end. There's a few different options you have when doing sort of tests, and one of the things is Google experiments or AdWords experiments. So if you have a good performing campaign, you don't want to upset the apple cart by throwing tests at it, you can do an experiment such as an 80-20 split. So 80% of your budget, it basically what it does is it creates an exact duplicate of the campaign, and then you make the changes in the experimental campaign. 80% of your budget can go behind your original campaign, 20% behind the experiment. So you're not making sort of wild changes to your campaigns that could upset everything. You're doing a test. One of the things that Google love to bang on about is their algorithmic learning. Conversion bidding. So rather than bidding for a click, you're bidding for a conversion. Google will sort of automize the bids for you. So you may end up paying £3-4 on a bid where you'd normally only pay sort of £1, £1.20, because Google think that it has this customer has a high propensity to convert at the far end. And what you'd do is you'd set up sort of a CPA, so a cost per acquisition of however much it's worth to you, and Google would work towards that. But this is the point: you're not spending all of your money because Google has said, "Oh, we can get you a conversion at this much." You're just giving them 20% of the budget to test it to see if it works. If it doesn't work, you've lost 20% of your budget. If it does work, you can say, "Well, yeah, all right, we'll give you a full 100% budget and see if it works." I'm not a massive fan of it. I've always found that it does work, but not to what Google say it works. So the CPA bidding is something that again, you can decide on after your experiment. And again, so this is going back to devices now. So device bidding. So a few stats. Mobile is a dominant platform for searches now, with a lot of buyers using a smartphone to start searching with a search engine. According to a recent study, mobile internet traffic has now surpassed desktop internet traffic. 25% of smartphone owners aged 18 to 44 can't remember the last time their phone wasn't next to them. I disbelieve this. I mean, I've always say this every time. My youngest daughter always has a phone in her hand. Whenever I ring her, she never answers it. I wonder. Many consumers use their mobile device as a primary or exclusive internet usage device, so don't have a desktop. And Google drives 96% of mobile search traffic, followed by Yahoo on 2% and Bing on 1%. So as you can see, device bidding is a massive thing now. So there's a couple of examples on how it might perform differently on a device. So the top one is a sort of a brand search on a campaign that we were running. So as you can see, there's not a massive amount on the cost per click, 8p. The costs were similar and the conversion rates was very similar. But this is one of the differences I was saying earlier. As you can see on a desktop, the cost per conversion was 49p. On a mobile, it's £1. Still ridiculously cheap for our action, but the conversion rate was half on a mobile device. And the second table is for non-branded search terms. So we can see a much bigger difference now. So here we're saying that computers, there's 15,000 searches, on mobile 13,500. Now this is where we've got sort of 17 conversion on the desktop and only 9 on the mobile device, but because we're bidding 50% less for a mobile click. As you can see, the cost per click is 74p and 40p on mobiles. The cost per conversion is very similar, £37 on desktop, £35 as opposed to £70 on a mobile. So just have to sort of be aware that there's a lot of traffic going to be coming through mobile devices. Are they performing as well as a desktop, and are they stifling what you can do on a desktop? So 2 things in your arsenal is to reduce mobile bids, or give it a separate campaign, like I said earlier, and a separate budget, so that they both have sort of free reign of their acquisitions, really. So next up, compelling ad copy. So your ads, what the first thing that a customer sees about you and your campaign, really. So they decide in milliseconds which ad they're going to click on. It can be that fast. So you've got to make sure your ad stands out from the crowd. A few things. Are your prices the lowest? Shout about it. Say, you know, we have the lowest price. With Google, if you do use things like lowest and superlatives, you have to be able to prove it on your landing page. But if you can't say lowest price, put your low price in the ad. A lot of people do this, and if yours is the lowest on the page, you're going to get a lot more clicks and a better click-through rate than your competitors. Try adding features and benefits. So again, you've got 2 description lines, one with features, so what makes your product better than everybody else's, and then benefits, how can it benefit your user? It's a great way of again, getting that user's attention, how it's going to benefit them, what good is it to them, and you will get a better click-through rate. Try a different call to action. So buy now, shop now. I hate that one personally. I hate shop now. Learn more. Call to actions. Split test different call to actions. Find out which one works for you and your customers and go with that one. But above all, remember, split test, split test, split test. So always be split testing your ad copy. Always be split testing your call to action, because you never know, you may find a better one. So what we have now is a few changes to Google's sort of AdWords that are now you can make the most of. This one's relatively old now, but they changed the ad copy a couple of times in the past few years. So ads used to be 1 headline of 25 characters and 2 description lines of 35 characters each. They then changed that to 3 headlines of 30 characters and 1 description line of 80 characters. But now you get 3 headlines of 30 characters each, 2 description lines of 90 characters each, plus any extensions you can put in front of your user. You can get a lot of information into your ads now that you never used to be able to. But a word of warning. Google don't always show all 3 headlines. Sometimes they'll show the first 2, sometimes they'll show the first one and the third one. So don't write your headlines with any sort of continuation in sort of grammar, or because you may not see them in the right order and you may not see them at all. And again, same with description lines. They may show 1 description line, they may show both. So don't try to continue 180 character sort of description, do 2 separate 90 ones, both that do what you want them to do. Excuse me. Just because, like I say, Google don't always show all of it. Next up is average position. So last year, Google sort of sunset one of the more useful columns in the interface, which was average position. It showed you where your ad showed on average in the search results. And it gave you a really good indication of how well your ad was performing, what position might be sort of best for you, because you can make some sort of decisions around that, whether you need to be number 1, whether you're okay being number 2 or number 3. because number one is always going to be the most expensive position to be, but it doesn't always necessarily mean it's the most efficient place to be. But all is not lost. No, it's been replaced by some what we call impression share metrics. So how often your ad shows is its impression share. And then top impression share is how often it shows at the top of the page while it's showing, and absolute top impression share is how often it's in number one position when it's showing of your impression share. And they're both available by rank and budget. So if you're losing impression share because of budget, it'll tell you that if you had a bigger budget, your ad would show this many more times. And rank is, again, tied to your quality score. So if you have a poorer quality score and your ad is showing in position sort of 3 or 4, it'll say, well, your absolute top impression share lost to rank was this much. If you bid more or improve your ad rank, then it will show in that position more often. So here's a quick example of what it can look like in the interface. So at the very top of the table, we have a generic ad and search campaign. As you see, the search impression share was 59%, 40% of that was lost to rank. So if we bid more for these generic terms, our impression share will improve, so our ad will show more. And top impression share was 12%, and the absolute top impression share of that was less than 10%. So we were showing, our ads were showing sort of page 1, positions 4, 5, 6. 12% of the time they showed positions 1, 2, or 3, and sort of a small percentage was position 1. Generic search terms, like I said, there's the most volume, they cost the most, and they're their least propensity to convert at the far end, but it is a big driver of traffic and new users. So the next one is brand. So as you can see, here our impression share is 98%. It's a branded search term. We expect to be number one. We lost 1.93% due to rank. That could be just some very odd search term that you don't want your ad to show for anyway. 81% of our searches, we were number one. So that's how really sort of the average position and impression share works. It can get a little complicating, but it is there. It's still useful to know whether you should be increasing your bids or giving it more budget. Split testing. So let's just face facts. You can't be bothered split testing. You don't want to keep writing ads. There is a way around this. I don't recommend it because, like I say, the ad copy is the first thing that people will see about your campaign, your site. So you want more control over what people see. But what Google do offer is a responsive search ad. So what this is you give Google 5 headlines and 4 description lines of 90 characters long, and it will mix and match them for you. So it'll make different combinations until it finds the one that works best. You have a little control over this. So in this example, you can see this is an ad for landlord's insurance. And what we're saying in this is we always want landlord insurance to be the number 1 headline. And then numbers 2 and 3, you can mix and match as you like. But if the keyword was landlord's insurance, which it was in this case, we want the ad to say landlord insurance. And then the descriptions, again, you can pin one of them as description 1, but that kind of defeats the point unless you know it's something that people like. And what Google will do is mix and match the ads, and it will look something like that. So, excuse me again, sorry. This is a report that Google will give you on its combinations, how many times it's shown, what kind of click-through rate it's generated, and then what your ad will look like. So as you can see, all of those say landlord insurance, but then it starts to sort of change. So the first one only has 1 extra headline, which is quick and easy online quote. The second one has the same second headline, but a third headline, and sort of the same descriptions, and then it will move on to the next one and put different descriptions or change the headlines. So what you're trying to do is find the best and let Google automate finding the best combination for you, and it will show that ad more and more often until, like I say, you change the descriptions or the headlines, and then it will reset and start showing different combinations. So, Google account managers. You can't get one. Do you know why? They're always messing around. They're either up and down the slides in the office, or they're in the sleep pods, or they're on the tuk-tuks in the grounds. It's a fantastic office to work in. But like I say, they try to make it as nice a place to work as possible. So if you can't get a Google account manager because they're too busy goofing off, what you can do is try the recommendations tab. So now in your Google account, on the left-hand side near the top, you'll have this recommendations tab. What it will say is that if you make these changes, you're optimizing your campaigns. So here we're saying, like I say, if you show more relevant ads to potential customers by creating responsive search ads. Like I say, I'm not a big fan of responsive search ads. I like to have more control over what my sort of customers see. So we write ads that we know are going to sort of show and what is going to show. But again, that's always sort of going to be one of Google's recommendations. They're also saying you can add new keywords to generate more traffic. So again, look at what keywords it's saying, it's suggesting, and then sort of you can add them all. There, in this example, there's 395 recommendations, which brings me nicely on to my next slide. Be careful with this recommendations tab. Don't just go charging willy-nilly into what Google recommend, because it can undo all your hard work. Like I say, 395 keywords. If you click apply all, it will add 395 keywords to your ad group. Makes your ad less relevant. It might be a keyword that isn't relevant to you. It just thinks it's relevant to you. In that example, it was for a steam cleaner. One of the top keywords it was recommended because there's a lot of traffic was carpet cleaners. And it's not a carpet cleaner. So it would have been a poor keyword to add to the campaign. Like I say, it loves adding hundreds of keywords, but remember, it can spoil your hard work. And on point 4, we were saying keep your keywords and your ad groups and your campaigns tight. 2 keywords to an ad group at most. Make sure you've got relevant ad copy. The other thing it likes doing is saying, we can change this to automated bidding. It goes back to what I was saying earlier with the CPA bidding. You can end up paying a lot more for a click that Google thinks might be more relevant to you, but it might not be. So again, be careful with that. But it can be a useful health check for your campaigns. Just be very careful when you're making any of their sort of recommendations and taking them on board. And finally, we have a new campaign. This is Google Discovery. So it's a new campaign launched about a month ago. And what it does is it shows sort of ads for you and your product on YouTube, Gmail, and a thing called Google Discover. If any of you have an Android phone, Google Discover is the page usually to the left where it'll give you a news that it thinks you're interested in or articles that it'll think you're interested in. And the more you sort of use Google Discover, the more articles, news, or websites it'll put in your feed. Now what does it puts these ads into your feed? So these are mobile only. So they won't work on a desktop, but they work on sort of the Google feed, Gmail, and YouTube on a mobile device or a tablet. And they can look relatively powerful. So this is what they can look like on YouTube, Gmail, and the Google Discover is the far side one. So you can see here, this is for a product called the H2OE3. So it's a sanitizer that kills 99% of bacteria. So on the left-hand side, you'd have your YouTube feed, videos, and the ad would show there. Gmail, again, with Gmail, it comes up usually within your sort of promotions tab. And when you click on it, it gives you an expanded ad, extra copy, and you can learn more. And then the Discover is, like I say, it's a small window in your news feed from Google. Very powerful, good for generating awareness of a new product, getting people to your website. All you need is like I say, some creative, some headlines, some descriptions, a call to action, and you can build the ads within Google itself. And again, it will mix and match what it finds. So that if you add 2 or 3 images, it will cycle between the images. You can use sort of rotating images in a carousel. So again, these are all static 1-image ads, but you can have 5 images in a carousel that the user can swipe through, showing different benefits. And like I say, it's really, really powerful and a great way of getting something out there that your customers may not know about. And that is essentially the PPC presentation. And thank you very much for listening. I'll switch you back to...
I appreciate that. So we'll open the floor now for questions. I think we have a question already, Andy. We've got 2 questions in now. One from our good friend Lisa. Do you want to take that, Andy? I've got some drilling in the office. So you see the question?
So where's the questions? Are we looking in chat or
question on the answer at the bottom?
All right. So can you have an ad extension on responsive ads? Yes, you can. So this is for, how would you pronounce that? Iwood, who asked, can you have ad extensions on responsive ads? Yes. All it's doing is with the responsive ad, you can mix and match both normal extended ads and responsive ads. So it will either show one of your ads or one of the responsive ads, but it will still add extensions to that ad. So it's always worth having, like I say, as many extensions as you can, either at an account level, campaign, or ad group level.
Question, Lisa?
Sorry, go on, Steve.
I was saying, thank you for the question, Lisa. And another question now from Janet.
Right, so Janet, so you haven't had a great experience with your ad manager. Is this sort of your Google accountant? And they don't seem to understand what your campaign is trying to achieve, and it's pretty niche. One of the things I found that the ad manager will do when they call you is basically go through the discovery tab. And they're always trying to push you to change your bidding to CPA or sort of maximize conversions and automation. If you tell them that that's not what you're interested in at the get-go, as I always do, because one of the, like I say, the first thing to do is, oh, I'll notice you're not on CPA bidding. Is there any reason? Yeah, well, because that's not right for how we work. They'll then try and find other things for you. But you do have to be fairly straight with them at the start. They tend to change the ad manager every 3 or 4 months. So then every 3 or 4 months, you'll find you're going through the same conversations. But at the start, if you tell them what you want to achieve and how you don't want to use CPA bidding or their latest functions, they will find other things for you and try and explain sort of the user. They might go into the user journey a bit more and other ways of sort of spending your budget more efficiently. So if you have an ad manager, by all means, make the use of them. It's also great to have a contact you can email at Google. Again, sometimes they'll fob you off and say you need to call the helpline, and then you're just stuck in sort of helpline hell. Other times they will try and help you if they can. So don't just use them for their sort of automated bidding advice. Get other things from them if you can. But like I say, a lot of the time you'll find they do tend to go through that optimization tab I showed you earlier.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. If there's any questions, please fire them over just as I'll wrap up. So we have 2 further virtual midweek masterclasses up our sleeves, as I mentioned earlier. Next week, I will be speaking around 3 pillars of a successful email marketing strategy. And as I mentioned earlier, Andrew Partridge, our head of digital, the following Wednesday, will be delivering his technical SEO masterclass. Both last around an hour, similar format as today. So with regards to today, I will be sending over Andy's slides via email later on today, tomorrow morning. I'll also be sending over a link to a recording of today's session, which I'd appreciate if you shared with your colleagues. Yeah, and if without further ado, unless I have any further questions, which I'll just check now. No further questions. I will close today's masterclass. Again, thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Take
See
care.
you all again soon.
Stay safe.